All right, let's dive into something really interesting a listener sent our way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a book titled Ochi Agli Orake, which, if you don't mind me butchering that pronunciation, translates roughly to The Science of Sales, a guaranteed process for closing deals.
Catchy. I like it.
It is, right. It really gets to the point. And the author, Akiyama Imai, is kind of a big deal in the Japanese sales world. He's the CMO and a sales trainer at Cerebrix Corporation.
Cerebrix. Now that rings a bell. They're a sales outsourcing company, right? Like, they basically become your sales department for a while.
Exactly. And what's really cool is this book isn't just some theory he came up with. It's based on real-world data from over 1,100 companies and something like 12,000 different products and services.
Wow. So it's got some serious real-world experience behind it.
Oh, yeah. And they don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk,
Mhm.
you know. Cerebrix collects a massive amount of sales data every month because their sales specialists are out there making tons of calls daily.
How much data are we talking?
Like 500,000 pieces of sales sample and market info every month.
No kidding. Okay, so we're definitely not dealing with some armchair sales guru here. This is like hardcore data-driven stuff.
Exactly. And that's where Imai's core philosophy really shines through. He's all about taking a scientific approach to sales. No more relying on gut feeling or waiting for that one lucky break. It's about using data and proven techniques to get predictable results. In fact, the book claims to provide a sure-win approach, which, let's face it, is a pretty bold claim in the often unpredictable world of sales.
I was just thinking that, sure, and that definitely piques my curiosity. So for our listeners who might be thinking, okay, this sounds interesting, but how does this actually apply to me? Well, stick with us because we're going to break down the key takeaways from this book in a way that anyone can understand and use, whether you're a seasoned sales pro or just curious about the science behind closing deals. And one of the first big shifts in thinking that MI advocates for is moving away from relying on chance or luck in sales and towards a much more, well, scientific method, like you said.
Exactly. You know, it's easy to get caught up in those moments where a deal magically closes and think, I'm a sales wizard. But the reality is those lucky breaks are fleeting and unreliable. What Ime really stresses is focusing on understanding the why behind your successes and failures. So if you close a deal, don't just celebrate it, dissect it. Figure out why it worked.
And even more importantly, when a deal doesn't close, don't just brush it off. Ask yourself, why not? What went wrong? What could I have done differently? It's about identifying the factors you can control and really honing in on those.
Right. And the book has some fascinating data around why customers don't buy, especially when it comes to outbound marketing,
Hmm.
like cold calling and email outreach. Some of the numbers are honestly pretty eye-opening. Even for relatively low-priced items, the success rate hovers around 27%. Now, when you start talking about more complex proposal-based products,
So stuff that requires more back and forth, more tailoring to the client's needs.
exactly, that success rate plummets to just 18%.
So you're essentially saying that the majority of the time, even with solid effort, you're going to hit a wall.
Pretty much. And it gets even crazier. For those intricate proposal-based products, the success rate from just cold calls alone is a measly 0.4%. We're talking 5 deals out of 1,200 calls.
Wow, that is a reality check right there. It really underscores the importance of having a more strategic approach than just dialing for dollars, so to speak. And that brings us back to the importance of that why not question. Every no you get is not a failure, it's data. It's valuable feedback that can help you refine your pitch, target the right people, and improve your overall strategy.
Right, so each no is almost like a little puzzle piece. You need to collect enough of them to really see the bigger picture of what's working and what isn't. But once you start understanding those reasons why customers don't buy, the natural next question is, well, what actually motivates a customer to pull the trigger on a purchase? And here, MI really emphasizes visualizing customer expectations.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Unpack that a bit for us. What does he mean by visualizing customer expectations?
It boils down to this. Customers don't just buy products or services. They buy solutions. They buy desired outcomes. They're not thinking, oh, I need this shiny new widget. They're thinking, this thing needs to solve X problem for me.
So it's less about the features and more about the benefits. Less about what it is and more about what it does for them.
Precisely. It's about painting a picture for them of how their world will be better, how their problems will vanish, all thanks to your offering.
So instead of just listing out features, you need to connect those features to the results they'll experience, the outcomes they're craving.
And to really drive that point home and build confidence, case studies are your best friend. They make those often abstract outcomes feel much more real and tangible.
Right. Instead of just saying, trust me, this will work, you're saying, look, we've already helped companies just like yours achieve these amazing results.
Exactly. And there's this really interesting technique the book highlights called the "I recall someone else had this problem" approach. It's a super clever way to introduce a case study without sounding like you're directly attacking their problems.
Oh, I like that. Subtle but effective. So instead of saying, hey, you're doing this wrong, you're more like, we've seen this kind of challenge before with other companies, and here's how we help them overcome it.
Exactly. It creates that sense of we're in this together, we understand your struggles. But to really use this technique effectively, you need a good stockpile of case studies, right? Covering different pain points, industries, all sorts of situations.
Absolutely. And a great tip from the book is to tap into your existing happy customers, find out what motivated them to buy, how they're using your product or service now, the real nitty-gritty details.
Because those real stories are gold. They're authentic, they're relatable, and they can really resonate with potential customers. Now, shifting gears a bit, the book also challenges this idea that sales is all about just hustle and brute force effort. MEI is a big believer in taking a systematic approach, incorporating process management into the sales game. It's almost like comparing it to a marathon runner. It's not just about sprinting blindly towards the finish line. It's about understanding the terrain, strategically managing your energy.
I like that analogy. So how does that break down in a sales context?
Well, just like a marathon has different phases, so does the sales process. You've got lead generation, initial meetings, proposals, closing, and all those little steps in between. Process management is about analyzing each stage, figuring out what works best at each point. It's about understanding those key activities that really move the needle.
Right. And it's also about anticipating those inevitable roadblocks, those moments where you might trip up or lose momentum. Having a plan in place for dealing with those setbacks is crucial. It's about being agile. Having a plan, but being able to adapt when things inevitably go off script.
Right, because let's face it, in sales, things rarely go exactly according to plan. Now, another fascinating insight from the book is how it distinguishes the mindset of top-performing salespeople from those who achieve more average results.
Oh, I'm all ears on this one. What separates the sales superstars from the rest of the pack?
It's really about a fundamental shift in focus. Average salespeople tend to be very product-centric. They're all about the bells and whistles, the technical specs.
I've definitely encountered those salespeople. You can practically see their eyes glaze over as they rattle off features. But the top performers, what makes them different?
They're laser-focused on the customer's problems and desired outcomes. They understand that the value of their product isn't inherent. It's determined by how well it solves the customer's specific needs. They frame everything in terms of how it will help the customer achieve their goals.
So instead of saying, here's this awesome software, they're saying, this software will help you streamline your operations and increase profits by 15%.
Precisely. And that leads us to another crucial skill: listening. And I don't just mean hearing the words the customer's saying, but truly understanding their unspoken needs, those things they might not even be fully aware of themselves.
This is where that idea of sales consulting comes in, right? Being more than just a salesperson, but a trusted advisor who can help guide the customer to solutions they might not even know they need.
Exactly. It's about asking probing questions, digging deeper, and really uncovering those underlying issues.
Which requires a deep understanding not only of the customer's business, but also of your own products and services, right? You need to be able to connect those dots to see how your offerings can bridge the gap between where the customer is now and where they want to be.
Absolutely. It's about guiding them towards a solution that truly fits their needs, even if they haven't explicitly articulated those needs themselves. Now, something that might seem a bit unexpected in a sales book is the emphasis on internal collaboration and building a good reputation within your own company.
Yeah, that is interesting. It feels like sales can sometimes be a bit of a lone wolf game. You're out there battling it out in the field, trying to close deals.
Right. But EMI makes a strong case for nurturing those internal relationships. Having a good reputation within your own company can open doors, give you access to important clients and projects, and ultimately get you the support you need to close those big deals.
So it's about being a team player, not just a solo act.
Exactly. And that naturally ties into the importance of good communication, keeping your manager in the loop about your progress, any roadblocks you hit, customer feedback, all of that. It helps build trust and ensures everyone's on the same page. And this all plays into the bigger picture of being a brand ambassador for your company. Imai really stresses that Salespeople are the face of the company for potential customers. Their demeanor, their professionalism, everything they do reflects on the brand.
It's easy to forget that, right? You're so focused on closing the deal, but every interaction you have is shaping how the customer perceives the entire company.
Exactly. And that brings us to another crucial point, trust and credibility. Imai is very clear about the importance of avoiding careless remarks or making promises you can't keep.
Especially with new clients, right? You need to build that foundation of trust from the get-go.
Absolutely. And he makes a distinction between trustworthiness and trust. Trustworthiness is about your daily actions being reliable, keeping your word, showing up on time. Trust, on the other hand, is about the customer's confidence in your expertise and your ability to deliver on your promises.
So trustworthiness is like the baseline, and trust is the deeper level of confidence that develops over time through consistently proving yourself.
Right, and those first impressions play a huge role in establishing that initial level of trustworthiness. The book actually talks about the color bath effect.
The color bath effect, I haven't heard of that one before.
It's basically the idea that those initial impressions we form of someone heavily influence how we interpret everything they do afterward.
Oh, so like if someone makes a great first impression, we're more likely to give them the benefit of the doubt later on.
So presenting yourself professionally, being polite, all those things really matter, especially in those early interactions. Now, this next one might seem a bit counterintuitive, but MI is a big advocate for setting high-volume goals.
High volume goals, like focusing on the quantity of interactions rather than just the quality of each individual deal.
Precisely. Top-performing salespeople don't just focus on closing big deals. They focus on having a lot of at-bats, a lot of interactions with potential customers.
It's like the law of averages, right? The more you put yourself out there, the more opportunities you create for success.
Exactly. And even small, consistent efforts can make a huge difference over time. The book has this amazing calculation where they show that making just 10 extra calls per day could potentially lead to 43 additional deals and 129 million yen in extra revenue over 3 years.
129 million yen. That's a powerful illustration of the compounding effect of those seemingly small actions. And this ties into the next point, which is about strategically targeting decision makers.
Right. It's not enough to just talk to anyone at the company. You need to reach the people who actually have the authority to make a purchase.
So in the context of outbound marketing, it's not just about casting a wide net. It's about identifying the key players, the people who hold the purse strings and have the power to say yes.
And that means understanding what's important to them. What are their top priorities? What keeps them up at night? Because if you can frame your solution in a way that directly addresses their needs and concerns, you're much more likely to get their attention. And this goes back to the idea we discussed earlier about collecting those why nots. Don't just accept rejection at face value. Dig deeper. Ask those prospects why they're not interested. That information is gold when it comes to refining your pitch and targeting the right people.
Right, because it's not always about you or your product. Sometimes it's just bad timing, or maybe they have budget constraints, or they're already using a competitor's product that they're happy with. Understanding those reasons can help you adjust your strategy and make sure you're focusing your efforts where they'll have the biggest impact. And that brings us to a really crucial point the book makes. Even the best sales techniques are useless if you're targeting the wrong people in the first place.
Couldn't agree more. You can have the smoothest pitch in the world, but if you're talking to someone who has absolutely no need for what you're selling, you're wasting your time and theirs.
It's like trying to sell ice to Eskimos.
Exactly. So refining your target customer list, constantly evaluating who you're reaching out to, and making sure you're aligning your offering with their needs, that's essential. It's about working smarter, not harder.
And this ties in really well with something that's become even more relevant in recent years, the challenge of generating new opportunities in a remote work environment. A lot of those traditional sales tactics, like cold calling and in-person meetings, have become less effective as more people work from home.
Right. It's definitely a new landscape out there. But it's not all doom and gloom. It just means we need to be more creative and adaptable in how we connect with potential clients.
Yeah.
Eli actually makes the case that in this new world of customer acquisition, prioritizing your prospecting power, that is, your ability to find and reach the right leads, is even more important than just pure sales ability.
Interesting. So it's less about being a smooth talker and more about being a master detective, so to speak, in terms of identifying those golden opportunities.
Exactly. He used a great analogy about fishing. It's more important to find a well-stocked fishing ground than to have the best bait or technique.
Because if you're fishing in a barren lake, No amount of skill is going to magically make fish appear.
I love that analogy. And the book has a great real-world example to illustrate this point, right? Something about a security system
Well,
company.
oh yeah, company A. Initially, they were targeting warehouses and hospitals with their security system, but they weren't having much luck. Then they had this light bulb moment where they realized their system was a perfect fit for the food industry because of concerns about contamination and the need for tight security measures.
So they had a great product, but they were aiming at the wrong target. Once they shifted their focus, they started seeing real results. So it all comes back to understanding your ideal customer, knowing their pain points, and making sure your offering aligns with their needs. And speaking of target customer lists, Imagi breaks down what makes a truly effective one into 4 key elements.
Right, let's dive into those. The first one is alignment. This is all about making sure your offering is a good fit for the customer's needs. It's about going beyond just basic demographics and really understanding what drives their purchasing decisions. So if you're selling HR software, for example, you wouldn't just target any company with over 100 employees. You'd look for companies that have specific pain points in their HR processes, like high turnover or low employee engagement scores.
Exactly. It's about finding those companies where your solution can truly make a difference.
The second element is freshness.
And this is all about keeping your information about potential clients up to date. People change roles, companies shift priorities, new challenges emerge. You need to be on top of those changes if you want your outreach to be relevant and effective. It's also a good idea to be aware of things like contract renewal cycles. If you know a company is coming up on the end of their contract with a competitor, that's a prime opportunity to swoop in and make your pitch.
So it's about staying ahead of the game, anticipating needs, and being ready to strike when the iron is hot.
Absolutely. The third element is specificity. This is about the level of detail you have about each potential customer. The more you know, the better you can tailor your approach. It's not just about having their name and job title. It's about understanding their role in specific projects, what their company culture is like, any challenges they're publicly facing, and so on.
It's like building a detailed profile of each potential customer so you can approach them in a way that's personalized and relevant.
Exactly. And the last element is absolute value. This one's pretty straightforward. It's about making sure you have enough qualified leads in your pipeline to meet your sales goals. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day grind and forget to step back and assess whether you have enough potential customers to actually hit your targets. So you need to be constantly evaluating your lead flow and making sure you have enough fuel to keep the sales engine running.
Right, because without a steady stream of qualified leads, even the best sales team is going to struggle. So once you've got your target customer list nailed down, the next step is figuring out how to reach those potential clients and generate those valuable leads. And the book outlines 4 main approaches for doing that. The first one, which we've touched on already, is outbound marketing.
Right, this is all about being proactive, going out and finding those customers rather than waiting for them to come to you.
And while it can be tough, especially for new businesses or companies entering new markets, it's often a necessary evil, especially if you want to control your own destiny and not just rely on inbound leads.
And one of the keys to successful outbound marketing, especially when you're starting out and don't have a huge track record, is to leverage those early wins, any successful case studies you have that can demonstrate your credibility.
Right, because social proof is powerful. If you can show potential clients that you've already helped companies like theirs achieve success, that goes a long way in building trust and opening doors.
Absolutely. Now, the second approach is inbound marketing. This is all about attracting those customers to you through various marketing activities.
So things like content marketing, SEO, advertising, public relations, all of that good stuff.
Exactly. And one of the key shifts in recent years has been a move away from just focusing on keywords and search engine rankings and towards creating really valuable, high-quality content that attracts and engages your ideal audience.
Because at the end of the day, people are looking for information and solutions, not just a bunch of salesy jargon. If you can provide that value up front, you'll naturally attract the right people to your brand.
Right. Now, the third approach is social selling. And this one's all about leveraging your existing network and online platforms to build relationships and generate leads.
So it's like networking, but in the digital age.
Exactly. It's about building genuine connections, engaging in meaningful conversations, and becoming a trusted resource within your industry or niche. It's not about spamming people with sales pitches. It's about building those relationships and being top of mind when they have a need you can fulfill.
Right, because people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And that trust is built through consistent, authentic engagement. And then the fourth approach is account-based marketing, or ABM.
And this is all about focusing your efforts on a very specific set of high-value accounts.
So it's like a laser-focused approach to sales and marketing, where you identify those key accounts that have the potential to bring in the most revenue and then tailor your entire strategy around winning their business.
Exactly. And ABM often involves combining multiple tactics, like personalized email campaigns, targeted social media outreach, and even direct mail, all designed to reach the right people within those key accounts and nurture those relationships over time. Now, Ima dives deeper into outbound marketing, offering what he calls an advanced approach, the supply model.
I'm curious about this. How does a supply model differ from traditional outbound marketing, which, let's face it, often gets a bad rap for being too pushy and intrusive?
The supply model is all about positioning yourself as the ideal solution by appearing at the right time with the right information.
So it's about being more strategic, more customer-centric, and less about bombarding people with unsolicited pitches.
Exactly. It's about understanding the customer's buying journey, their specific needs, and their timeline before you even think about making a hard sell. The core principle is give to get. You proactively provide valuable information or resources to potential customers, even before they've expressed any interest in your product.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this is different. It's less about pushing your agenda and more about providing value up front, building trust, and positioning yourself as a helpful resource.
Precisely. And one of the key tactics here is identifying those marketing clues, those signals that indicate a potential customer is ready to buy or is at least open to considering a new solution.
So it's about being a bit of a detective, paying attention to what's happening in the market and within specific companies to identify those moments of opportunity.
Exactly. And phone calls can be a really effective tool for uncovering those clues. You can use those calls to offer something valuable, like a free report or consultation. And in the process, you can gather information about their needs, their current solutions, their timeline, all that good stuff.
It's a clever way to get your foot in the door and start a conversation without feeling too salesy. And the book actually provides a specific example of how to do this, right? Something about a security system company and a report on food safety.
Oh yeah, Company A again.
Yeah.
They were having great success by offering potential clients in the food industry a free report on the latest food safety regulations and best practices.
And in exchange for that valuable information, they were able to gather contact details and set up follow-up calls to discuss the client's specific needs. So it's a win-win, right?
Yeah.
The client gets something valuable, and Company A gets a foot in the door. And speaking of getting your foot in the door, one of the biggest challenges in outbound marketing is getting past those gatekeepers, those receptionists and assistants who are tasked with screening calls. Any tips on how to effectively navigate that obstacle?
Yeah, the book has some good strategies for that. One is to create relevance by mentioning any prior contact you've had with the target person.
So if you've sent them an email, attended a webinar together, or had any other previous interaction, you can reference that to establish a connection.
Exactly. Another strategy is to demonstrate authority by subtly name-dropping any well-known clients you have or mentioning any significant successes or industry recognition you've achieved.
So it's about subtly showcasing your credibility and track record to make it clear you're not just some random salesperson.
Right. And you can also offer special treatment by mentioning exclusive offers, trials, or anything that might be of particular interest to the target company. The key is to be concise and professional, get straight to the point, and make it clear why you're calling and how it can benefit the person you're trying to reach.
Okay, so those are some really practical tips that anyone can use to get past those gatekeepers and increase their chances of reaching the decision maker. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into Akiyama Imai's The Science of Sales. We've covered a lot of ground, from understanding why customers don't buy to the importance of building a strong target customer list, and from the power of case studies to advanced outbound marketing techniques like the supply model.
It's been a really insightful look at how data-driven insights can transform how we approach sales and build those crucial relationships. And for you, our listener, as you go about your week, I'd love for you to consider how you can apply some of these principles in your own life, even if you're not directly involved in sales. Think about the supply model and how you can offer genuine value to others, build rapport, and uncover opportunities. By shifting your focus from just pushing your own agenda to truly understanding and serving the needs of others, you might be surprised at the positive results you can achieve.
It's about building those win-win scenarios where everyone benefits.
Exactly. It's not just about closing deals, it's about building meaningful connections and becoming a trusted resource. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.